Well, good morning, everybody. Hey, and happy Thanksgiving. It is Thanksgiving Day, and I've got nothing going on today. All our family stuff is tomorrow, for the most part. So I'm going to hang out in the shop here and get this old Nissan Rogue fixed up here. Get this color issue taken care of. And if you don't recall what we're talking about, or you didn't see the video, this is a 2020 Nissan Rogue that we're doing as a builder for my daughter. It was hit on the passenger side here, wiped out both doors and the fender. And trying to be sneaky, I bought all the doors and the fender in color, thinking I was going to bolt it onto the car and be done. But that didn't happen. Turns out all three panels were off of other cars that were previously repainted. For what reason? I don't know. Obviously, just body shop damage. So basically, I have 4 different shades of blue going on this car, and I can't have that. So what we've done so far up until this point is obviously got it all put together. We have the door handles all removed. We've wet sanded the entire car, this side anyways, with 1000 grit sandpaper, and then went over with a gray Scotch-Brite. Obviously, we got it washed, cleaned, masked up, wiped down with wax and grease remover, and technically it's ready to go. But before we get into painting, a lot of people are asking how can they be a different color if they're the same paint code? So let's just cover that real quick. First things first, all cars have variances. These here are the variances for this color blue. And obviously on camera they're probably all going to look the same, but if we bring in the sun directly on, they pretty much all look the same. Obviously you might be able to see the difference, but I can't tell on this camera. But if you bring it off, when the sun in the shade and out of the shade, these are the different variances of this particular paint code. And pretty much every car has them. Every color, every car. Silvers are the absolute worst. This has 2 variances. You have the prime, and then there's 2 other colors that were created somewhere down the road at the manufacturer. How does this happen? I don't know. Couple ways it could be. Nissan Rogues are built in 3 locations: Korea, Japan, and USA built. This is a Korean built car, I believe. No, this is a USA built car. The doors are off a Korean built car. Doesn't matter because they've been repainted. So depending on who was mixing paint that day and how hungover they were, they might have ran out of the purple tint, or they might have ran out of this, or might have ran a little short on that, and they didn't care. So therefore, the next 80,000 cars that got painted were slightly different. So by using the variance chart, we can now take the chart, hold it up to the original paint, and try to match the variance to the color that we want. And then basically from there we have to blend the color. That's why you cannot panel paint. You cannot paint a door and put it on a car. It's not going to match the fender or the other door. It's just the way this business works. The other way you can change the variances, like these cars here being resprayed, depending on what color sealer they put underneath of that base coat when they painted these panels. Basically, there's a variance of sealers going from what we call G1 to, I believe, G7. G1 is white. G7 is almost black. You mix 3 different sealers together and you can make a G1, G2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7. That is the undercolor. This car here is going to be a G3, I believe, undercolor. I'm not doing any sealer today because I don't have to. We just need to rebase. But if this was a black fender, first we need to paint it G3 sealer gray, and that's what color this blue is supposed to be sprayed over top of. And that is going to give us our final color of blue. If you put this color over G1 and you put this color over G7, you're going to have 2 different shades of blue. That's just the way it works. So that's the other way we can have variances in the color, basically. So that's why panel painting doesn't work. And that's why we always have to blend our colors out. So that's what we're going to do today. Basically, I need to make the quarter panel match the door. And you can see it now that it's all, flat finish, basically. You can see that color difference. So we need to blend this door into this quarter panel. But I don't want to change the color down here where it goes to the bumper. Otherwise, the bumper is not going to match. So we're going to bring the blue onto the quarter and then fade it off. There will be no base coat down here. There'll be no base coat up above here to the roof line until we get down to here. Then I will base from here to here and make this color transition smooth. I will not do anything on the top of the fender here because this actually matches the hood fairly well. This is the original hood of the car. This is not the original fender to this car. Same thing down here. I'm not going to change the color of the fender down here because I feel it's going to match the bumper, because the bumper should match the hood. And the bumper of this car is not damaged, so we don't have to paint it. So there'll be no color here, no color across the top, no color by the roof, and no color by the rear bumper. Other than that, we are going to base the entire side of the car, 2 or 3 coats, so they all are at least the same shade. So with that being said, let's get some base mixed up. Okay, prep station is running. We have thoroughly shaken our quart of base, so we're spraying Deltron DBC today. Deltron base coat, DBC. 1-to-1 ratio, pretty standard unless you're doing black, but everything else is pretty much 1-to-1 ratio. We're going to be spraying at about an 85-degree temperature reducer today, but I spray that all year round, so to prevent making a big mess, I always just tape the edge of the can before I pour it out. That way it's not all the way down the side of the can. Because I will use this color again, because I will own another blue Nissan Rogue. And we don't need a lot of base today. Probably gonna mix up about 10-12 ounces here. We don't really have to do any coverage. We just need to get everything going the same shade. So we mixed up about 14 ounces of the dark blue steel, which doesn't really sound like a cool color for a Nissan Rogue. Sounds like a truck color, dark blue steel. Like a Matt's off-road recovery thing. Blue steel. Today we're taking blue steel out.
On blue steel.
So that's all ready to go. We're going to set that aside. That way it's ready to go, and then we're going to get a new cup, and we are going to mix up just a couple ounces of DBC 500. DBC 500 is literally just a clear base coat. That's what we're going to use on our blend area, because we don't want any blue base coat on that area, but we need base coat to cover the 1,000 grit scratches. Otherwise, what happens is the metallic in the blue, and this is really more common on like silvers and dark grays, but the metallics will settle on the sand scratches, and when you clear it, you will see those sand scratches. You have to cover them, and the way to do that is just a couple coats of DBC 500. It's a little pricey, but it saves you a lot of work later. So like I said, we're not doing a lot, so we're just going to mix up probably 2 ounces. And it's the same thing, just a 1-to-1 ratio. Now you can do this after you base, but since we are pretty much just doing a quick couple coats, and I put this on, I do my DBC 500 first. That way, as I'm spraying, I can keep working my blend every coat I use. Got a quick filter on the top here. We are ready to go. Give it a quick tack. Get anything off the surface that landed on there. So like I said, DBC 500, we're just going to get 1 or 2 coats over the areas where we're not going to be putting any base coat, which is along the bumper, across the roof line, top of the fender, front of the fender. You can do the entire side of the car if you want, but at $100 a quart, this stuff, there's no reason to waste it. We're going to cover it with base coat anyways, so this is just in the areas where we're not going to put base coat. So yeah, a couple 2 or 3 coats of DBC 500. Obviously you can see that difference. No DBC 500 obviously. And like I said, it's just a clear base coat, so it's just going to kind of bring that sheen back, but it's covering those scratches. I know they're only 1,000 grit, but like I said, the metallic will adhere to your hand strokes of sanding, and you'll see those circles in the paint if you don't do this step. Now the only other way around that is to base the entire panel, everything, base the entire thing. But then you're going to take a chance of changing the color from the quarter to the bumper. So while we're going to let this flash off, let's talk gun setup. So my gun that I'm spraying right now is a Sata 5000. I have two guns, one for base, one for clear. One is a standard HVLP, high volume, low pressure, and the other one has a reduced pressure system. It's kind of stupid. I'm not going to overkill it, or I'm not going to over-explain it. It's not necessary. So basically, you got a couple adjustments on your gun. You got your air pressure, which I usually run around 40 to 45 psi at the regulator, which gives me about 10 to 12 psi at the cap. As far as then, your next adjustment is obviously your fan. Close the fan, obviously you're going to make a mess. Too much of a fan, you're going to have all the material in one section. So you need to find your happy spot with the fan. That gives you a nice football. We're really heavy right here in the middle, so we're going to go a little wider. And obviously my cap is slightly crooked because it's coming off angle. And you're kind of looking for just a nice football. That way you got good pattern. If you got too much paint up here and too much paint down here and light in the middle, then your fan's too wide. If you got a lot of paint in the center but not much up here, then your fan's too narrow. Just got to find the happy spot that you're happy with. And as far as pattern, if you turn it 90 degrees so your tip is pointing up and down, and then just let it run. It should all run together. If it starts running over here and over here but not in the center, again, your fan's too wide. If I go narrow, nice football. Running continuously. So it's all, I got good coverage there, my fan is set up. If your tip was dirty, obviously you're going to get a lot of material up here and none down here, or vice versa. That's usually a dirty tip. Take your gun apart and clean it. Don't go spraying, especially a silver or gray metallic, if you got a dirty tip. There we go. Gun is set up, we are ready to go. So I had the filter cover off the other day cleaning the shop. I take the cover off and blow the shop out and turn the fan on. That way it just bypasses the filters and blows all the dust outside. And I knocked my frickin' gun holder off the wall and broke it. So I have no gun holder in here, so it's just me and my camera. So it is what it is. This is all set up. Let's get 2 coats of base on, see how we do. Okay, now that our gun is all set up, we are going to do about a 40 to 50% overlap on our spray pattern. We're going to put it on not wet but not dry, right in the middle. This is base coat. It does not need to go on wet. If you put it on too wet, your metallic is going to gather up into a pile, call it metallic sag, and it's going to look terrible. So you can put on 7 light coats if you want. I don't care. I've been doing this long enough to know what I need, but we are going to get a couple coats of base on. On whatnot, and you can see we got good coverage. Everything looks good. And so let's just go over a few things here. The fan, I got the booth off, obviously. I just have this fan running right now. We're just going to let this sit for probably a good half hour before we put the clear on, but make sure everything's set up. So you can see at the top here, you can see the blue, okay? And now you can see that color come down. You definitely see that purple haze that I was talking about in the first video, and that is in the prime, which the prime is the original color, meaning no variance, but it does have that purple hue to it. But you don't see it up here in the blue. The reason for that is that's under clear right now, okay? And this is on top of the clear. Once we get clear on this, it's all going to go the same color. It's hard to believe that it's going to, but you just have to kind of have faith in yourself that it's going to happen. If you do not trust the fact that it's going to change, the more pearls and metallics that it has in it, the worse the base coat's going to match the original color. So a trick that we can use, if I was concerned about if this was going to match the hood, why, you know, now that the base coat's all dry, I could unmask this right here, okay, and that'd show us the hood, and then I could take wax and grease remover and just kind of spray it on this corner right here, and that's going to bring the true color out. And then we can take our paint light and we can see how well the color matches. I'm not going to do that because honestly, I don't care. This thing's going to be close enough. It's a builder. We're not making show cars, remember? So back to this section over here, we're talking sealer colors. This is a spray out card. Those are your main 4 colors of sealer. You can make up to 7. Basically, this is G1 and this is the G7. This is a G3 right here that's darker gray. That's usually what is used under most colors. If you're doing a red, you'd be using this sealer down here. If you're using a white, obviously, you'd be up here to this section of the chart. But that's a spray out card that kind of shows you your variances in the sealer. Back to our paint gun. You can see now that how everything's kind of dried out here. We have this nice football effect, and we have a nice run kind of all the way through there. So we got good coverage. The gun is spraying well. Like I said, if it was really heavy over here, but not in the middle, what's going to happen is you're going to zebra stripe with the metallics. Basically, when this thing's all cleared, you're going to see metallic stripes down the side of the car. Believe me, I've done it. There ain't no hiding it without respraying it. So always make sure your gun's spraying well, and if it's not spraying well, stop, tear it apart, clean it, make adjustments, adjust your air pressure, check your fan, everything you can, and until that sprays correctly, then you can go back and finish painting. If you do start seeing an issue with the base coat, remember, we can always fix stuff. Up until we put the clear on, then we're done. But up until that point, we can keep fixing stuff. If you got a little like nib of dirt right here or something that you see in the base coat after it's dry, take a piece of 1000 grit sandpaper, scuff it out real quick, rebase it. It's not a big deal. Up here we got a slight little rock chip. If you wanted to, I'm not going to, you can mix up a little putty, put it in there, sand that out after 15 minutes, let it sit for a half hour, rebase it. Like I said, until you put clear on, you can keep fixing stuff. If it's really dry, if it has a lot of texture to it, you can wet sand the whole thing out and start all over again. I don't care. I do it. I've done it. But everything here is laid down really nice. It's very smooth. We got our nice satin finish. I don't see any issues. The biggest issue I see with new painters is panel painting. You cannot panel paint up here and stop and then go back. You have to start on this panel and come over this panel, because every time you come over and stop and go back, you're doubling your coats right here. So there's going to be 4 coats here, there's going to be 8 coats right here. So you always have to go over your panel, otherwise you will see darker areas at the edges of your doors and your fenders or whatever. I base the entire side of the car up, back over again. That way we don't have that issue. We take that right out of play. Like I always tell people, painting's not tough. It's expensive, so if you screw it up, you're going to throw away a lot of money. But it's not tough. It's more or less knowing what to do when it doesn't work correctly. How to fix things. Dirt in the paint, easy. Let the base dry, sand it out. You got fish eyes. Basically the paint is not sticking to a certain area like a little dot. That's basically contamination on the surface. You can sand it out and then put light coats over it and try to drown it. If you have oil on the surface, that's your biggest fish eye issue. I don't have fish eyes. I haven't in years, but we used to. I wasn't always painting in a prep station and paint booth. I mean, back in our younger days, we were turning Grandpa's garage into a frickin' paint booth while they were on vacation for a week. Been there, done that. I know people used to roll the cars out at sunrise, have them all masked up, ready to go. As soon as the sun starts coming out, push them outside in the summertime and start painting. Basically, the dew was still on the ground, grass was still wet. They'd hammer those things out, a couple hours, get them done. Great paint jobs. It can be done. Biggest thing, airflow. You have to have airflow. You have to have air moving across the paint. If you watched the video up to this, you heard me talk about chemical pop on the fender. What that is basically when they repainted that fender originally, somewhere along the line, I don't know who did it, basically there was not enough airflow across the fender while they were painting it, and the chemicals did not get out the reducer basically did not evaporate out of the base coat. So as soon as they hammered the clear coat on, or this could have happened in the clear also, when they start putting the clear on, the chemicals are still underneath there, and they're trying to escape. And what they do is they escape up through the clear coat, and they pop, leave a little, like a little itty bitty pinhole, with like 100 of them. From 5 feet away, you don't see them. But I'm a detail guy. I'm always looking at the finish. That's the first thing I see when I see that. That is not enough airflow. Like I said with this car here, we're done basing. It took about 45 minutes to get 3 coats on. Wait 15 minutes between coats. Both ran the entire time. Now I have the fan running on it, just blowing across it. I'm gonna go and get some lunch, let this thing sit, and then we'll come back, hammer 2 coats clear on it, get this thing out of here. Went in, had some lunch, let everything sit, blah, blah, blah. Get a couple coats clear put on this thing, then we'll let it sit. So today we're spraying DC 3000, again, Deltron product. I spray this on everything. This is not a choice clear if you're going to be doing a complete paint job, like a, you know, complete all-around paint job of an entire car. This is not a clear for that. DC 3000 is more of a spot clear. It's more for doing a couple panels, hood and a fender, you know, and that's pretty much all I paint around here, so that's why I use it. I like it. It's a good clear. It's 4-to-1 ratio. So we're gonna mix up about, what do we got here? 18 ounces. We'll start with that. You can always mix up more, but once it's mixed, you got to use it or throw it away, and this stuff is expensive. Last I remember, it was about $560 for a gallon of clear with a quart of activator. We are using the 3085 today, which again, it's designed for warm weather, 85 degree. That's what the 85 stands for the most part. But I spray that year round. It's 25 degrees outside today. It's 70 in here right now, but it'll be more around 66 once we get the fan running. But like I said, I spray 85 degree reducer and 85 degree activator in the clear year round. It just flows better, turns out nicer, less wet sanding and buffing when you're done. We are using another Sata 5000, but this is a reduced pressure gun. It does spray different than my other Sata 5000. I do like this one for clear. It seems to not have as much overspray in the air. You get more material on the car versus in the air, but it's slower. So you kind of takes more time, but use less product. All right, so we're all ready to go here. Like I said, the car's tacked off. We're gonna put 2 wet coats on. If you're going to be painting in a dirtier area where you're going to be doing lots of wet sanding, buffing, or if you're doing like a show car, 3 to 4 coats, because you're going to want some material to take back off and you wet sand and buff. I don't plan on doing a lot of wet sand and buffing on this. I probably won't do any just because it's just a builder. It's nothing special. So we're just going to put 2 wet coats on. And remember, so you got basically, you got a good finish, you're going to have a dry finish, or you're going to have runs. Those are your 3 options. You cannot sand out, if your clear is dry, you cannot sand it out and buff it. You're going to run out of material before you get the texture out. It's easier to sand a run out than it is to sand dry spots out. Just saying. If you do it right, you don't have to worry about either one of them. But anybody who doesn't get a run every once in a while is lying. It happens. But you can sand them out. It's not really a big deal. Just a little extra work. So 2 wet coats. Lots of airflow, good temperature. All right, we got our first coat on, and like I said, we mixed up 18 ounces. So, trick of the trade that I use, dump it back in a clean cup and see how much you used. So we got 4 ounces, we mixed up 18, do the math. Now we need to replenish what we used. I'll add just a little extra. You want a little extra at the end. You'd rather have extra than run out, have to come back and mix up a little bit. So now I know I'm going to have plenty of clear. We'll start cleaning the cups. One little tip I can always recommend is if you're not sure if you're ready yet, basically just go up to your masking tape, and if you can drag your finger or your thumb across it without sticking to it. If I push, I'm going to stick. But if I can drag it across there without it sticking, we're ready to go. Usually 15-20 minutes, depending on your temperature, airflow, all that good stuff. So let's get coat number 2 put on, wrap this thing up. Well, here's our finished product for today. It's all one shade of blue again, and it's actually pretty close to the correct blue. I mean, I see no difference between the top of that and the bottom, you know, that door area. Obviously, we worry about the fender when we get it unmasked. We'll see how that looks, but it's pretty much going to be whatever it is what it is. We're not super concerned with this thing. But I think everything looks up good. We got a couple light specks of dust up in this area. Big one right here. We'll probably do a quick scuff and buff on it. We're not going to get too detailed on that. And then let this sit overnight. Always let it sit overnight. Don't get in a rush to unmask it. You're just asking for trouble. We'll let this sit overnight, unmask it, and then put it together. Get this thing out of here and get on to the next one. So anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Appreciate it. We'll see you on the next one.